new article just dropped and it definitely turned my head. A professional lip reader has decoded what Prince Harry and Meghan Markle were saying to each other at the 2018 Remembrance Day ceremony. At first glance, it was a solemn and respectful occasion, one of the most sacred events on the royal calendar. Meghan and Harry were still working royals, standing alongside the rest of the family. But behind the scenes, the cracks had already begun to show. By this point, Meghan's first major conflict with staff had already made waves. Negative press coverage was mounting, and quietly, plans were underway to leave Kensington Palace altogether. This newly interpreted moment between Harry and Meghan gives us a rare glimpse into their dynamic during a very tense time, not just publicly, but privately. Was it nervousness? Was it control? Or were they already working to shape their image from within the system they would later criticize? Let's break it down because this one exchange might say more than we realized. But before we begin, here's the intro. Welcome to Revealing the Narc. Join me as I highlight narcissistic traits in celebrities and public figures. Everything here is in my opinion and not professional advice. If you enjoy the analysis, please like and subscribe. The article I want to go through today was just published and it's titled Meghan's Damning Comment That Left Harry Gasping and Saying, You Do Realize That This Is the End. Royal Secrets Laid Bare by Lip Readers from Kate's... Oh, I hate it when they say Kate. From Catherine's sexy remark to Harry's whining. I'm not going to go into all of the other lip reader things that were analyzed. I just want to look at the one between Harry and Meghan because to me, it's shocking. The article begins, one exchange between Prince Harry and his wife, Meghan, at Remembrance service in 2018 also epitomizes the conversations we might imagine they have in secret. It's not clear what they're discussing, but they're definitely plotting something. Take advantage of this situation, she urges him. According to the lip reader's analysis, Harry gapes a bit. Today, he asks. Do it tonight, she orders. The prince looks more uncomfortable still. You do realize that this is the end, he says. If that exchange occurred in an episode of The Crown, it might seem too stereotypical. Meghan scheming like Cruella de Vil, Harry vacillating like a minor character in a Jeeves and Wooster story, but the wretched aftermath of their breakaway from the rest of the royal family is summed up by his complaints on the steps of Westminster Abbey as the congregation files out at the end of the coronation ceremony in 2023. Harry was on his own since Meghan opted to remain in California. Amid the crowd of relatives and former friends, he was being comprehensively ignored. Sidling over to Princess Eugenie, one of the few people still willing to talk to him, he appeared to moan, I've spent 5 hours with my dad in his office and not a friendly text from either. Who hasn't texted him? Charles and Camilla? William and Catherine? The answer, of course, is all of them. And then he bleats again, why hasn't anybody contacted me? Eugenie gives him a sympathetic but wary smile. No one wants to end up in his next memoir. Wariness is something all the royals will have to practice from now on. It's a learned skill, something the Princess of Wales hadn't fully mastered when she was still Kate Middleton. Ugh, I hate it when they say that. This whole exchange between Harry and Meghan piqued my interest, so I did a lot of digging into articles that were being published at the time and things we know that were happening. One of the first ones I saw was this one, and it's titled Meghan Markle's Moment She Lost Her Spark Goes Viral. This article is talking about a specific clip that the Sussex squad had released, so let's watch that clip right now. So what they're saying is that Meghan looks like she's lost her spark, and here she is, tons of pictures being taken of her, and you can guess what direction the article we're going to go through is going to lead. It's really interesting though, to know what was happening behind the scenes. And I'm excited to talk to you all about it. And I hope to hear what you think about it as well. So let's continue with that article. It says the Duchess of Sussex had recently returned from a successful tour of Australia and the South Pacific in 2018 when a royal biography, Charles at 70, first painted her as a demanding character, suggesting Prince Harry had told staff what Meghan wants, Meghan gets. And stories in the press suggested Her Majesty the late Queen had warned Harry over Meghan's behavior in relation to her tiara prior to her wedding in May. It was the start of an era which Meghan would later say was the turning point at which her royal experience soured, and within days of the story emerging, she attended Britain's National Service of Remembrance at the Cenotaph in London on November 11, 2018. A clip of her watching the moving event went viral on TikTok after the UK-based working royals, including Princess Catherine, turned out at this year's Remembrance Day service on November 10th. The footage was liked 8,000 times and viewed 180,000 times after it was posted with the message, "Once upon a time when Remembrance service was something to look forward to." So let's see. According to this clip, it looks like there's 16.8 thousand likes. So it hasn't gained much traction since 2018 when this post was first published on TikTok. So let's dig a little deeper and let's go through the timeline of things that led up to November 11th. On October 12th, 2018, we know that it was Princess Eugenie's wedding at St. George's Chapel. Meghan and Harry attended, and they announced Meghan's pregnancy to the family at this event, which I would imagine would upset Princess Eugenie and her mother, Sarah Ferguson, for overshadowing the bride. There are reports that allege that this is true, that they were upset by this announcement. Just a few days after that, Harry and Meghan departed for their Australia tour, which began on October 15th, and they were back on November 1st. This was their first royal tour as a married couple, and Meghan was newly pregnant with Archie. The tour included Australia, Fiji, and New Zealand, and they landed back in the UK just 10 days before Remembrance Day, November 11, 2018. By this point, when Harry and Meghan had returned to the UK, their egos, I believe, had been overinflated by their performance in Australia. I'm going to read to you a little bit from the book Spare by Harry, where he talks about this exactly. The passage begins, "Everywhere we went, enormous crowds turned out, and she didn't disappoint them. All across Australia, Fiji, New Zealand, she dazzled. After one especially rousing speech, she got a standing ovation. She was so brilliant that midway through the tour, I felt compelled to warn her, 'You're doing too well, my love, too damn well. You're making it look too easy.' This is how everything started with my mom." So let's end the passage there. So you can see 10 days before the Remembrance Day event, I believe Harry and Meghan had their egos artificially inflated. Let's continue with the timeline. On November 11, 2018, that's when the Remembrance Day centenary occurred. On November 18th, so just a week later, the move to Frogmore Cottage was announced. This is important because this move was more than just a change of address. It was their first step stepping away from the shared Kensington Palace life they had with William and Catherine, and it likely alluded to a desire for greater autonomy and a clearer definition of their household separate from the Cambridges. Another major thing that was brewing in the background was that staff and office separation had begun. Though the official office and communications split came in spring of 2019, by November 2018, both media and palace insiders were reporting that sharing staff and schedules was becoming impractical. This suggested that there were strained logistics between the Cambridges and the Sussexes, and they were already operating quasi-independently. There was unspoken tension in how joint duties were carried out publicly and behind the scenes. And on top of all of that, at around the same time, the Duchess' difficult headlines began, and we heard of the departure of Melissa Tubati. So here's an article published November 27 of 2018. The title is "Meghan Markle's aide who quit after 6 months was Robbie Williams' ex-assistant." Meghan's personal assistant, Melissa Tubati, quit suddenly earlier this month after working for the Duchess for 6 months after previously working happily for pop star Robbie Williams. Meghan Markle's closest aide, who quit suddenly this month, had previously worked happily for Robbie Williams and his wife. The Duchess of Sussex's personal assistant, Melissa Tubati, quit her role just 6 months after Meghan married Harry at Windsor Castle in May. Her sudden departure left insiders shocked, with many surprised she had left such a prestigious role so soon. An insider said, "Robbie Williams is a lively character, but she worked for him longer than she worked for Meghan." Another source also told Mail Online, "It's a real shock. Why would she want to leave such a prestigious job so soon? So the implication here is she already can cut it. She cut it when she was working for Robbie Williams, and it's a real shock. If you already have the character, the strength to have worked with someone that has a lively character in Robbie Williams, then how bad could it possibly be that you would leave a prestigious job? I also want to show you this headline, and it was published November 24 of 2018. It says the Duke and Duchess of Sussex to move to Frogmore House and begin family life. So these are all hints that we're looking at. We see them breaking from the traditional royal template. They were steering their narrative, demonstrating they were not content with simply slotting into roles previously held by William and Catherine. They were preparing public perception. By acting independently and symbolically distancing themselves, they began setting expectations for their future as a separate unit. And all of this, I believe, foreshadowed Megxit. These actions hinted at a couple who felt that they were held back by conventional royal structures, and they were quietly preparing for something bigger, their official step down in January 2020. I want to say also that at this same time was when the discussion of Catherine being left in tears began. So here's an article from Vanity Fair, November 27, 2018. It's titled, Princess Catherine was reportedly left in tears before Meghan and Harry's wedding. In the wake of the news that Meghan and Harry are moving to Windsor, all kinds of gossipy reports have emerged. And the article says, well, that is changing in light of the recent, somewhat surprising news that Meghan and Prince Harry, instead of moving into Kensington Palace next door to Prince William and Catherine, will be moving roughly 25 miles away to Frogmore Cottage in Windsor. While there are no doubt a whole range of factors behind Meghan and Harry's choice, the pair will be welcoming their first child this spring. Several outlets have wondered whether there is any potential tension between the two women that could have led to the move. Sources tell Vanity Fair that it's tension between William and Harry causing the trouble, but feuds between brothers apparently aren't quite as enticing for the tabloid reporters to engage with. The Daily Mail went right for it over the weekend, running a quote from a source claiming Catherine and Meghan are very different people. They don't really get on, referring to unease between the Duchesses of Cambridge and Sussex. Well, just commentary really quick, they are very different people. And the more time goes on, the more that is confirmed. The article continues, and it would appear that this has now opened floodgates for gossip stories about Catherine and Meghan. Buckle up, adjust your fascinators, etc. The Daily Mail is running a story today that is loosely related to the Meghan-Catherine tension angle. The paper claims that Catherine was left in tears after Princess Charlotte's bridesmaid dress fitting for Meghan and Harry's wedding, as she was reportedly feeling quite emotional at the time. Now, no reason is given for why Catherine was crying. The Daily Mail notes she had just given birth to Prince Louis at this point, and there is no reason to believe it had anything to do with Meghan. But of course, that is not going to change how this story is currently playing in the tabloids, coming as it is several days after news of the Frogmore Cottage move. So you can see there was so much happening in 2018, and it just hit me. Look how soon after the wedding, once Meghan had that ring on her finger, the plan was accelerated. And I say accelerated because I think she had this plan from the get-go. But once Harry had sunk in deeper, I believe the plan got aggressive and fast. I wanted to talk about 3 different narcissistic traits that I feel are reflected in this article. The first one is coercive control and emotional manipulation. So you heard Meghan say, allegedly, according to the lip reader, that Meghan said, take advantage of this situation and do it tonight. And then you hear Harry's panicked response, you do realize that this is the end. This exchange suggests a high-pressure dynamic where one partner pushes for action while the other expresses anxiety and fear. The tone implies urgency and dominance, traits commonly seen in narcissistic dynamics, especially when paired with emotional detachment from consequences. Meghan's response also demonstrates a lack of empathy. Meghan's command to act tonight, despite Harry's visible discomfort, shows a disregard for his emotional well-being. His fear, by him saying this is the end, is met not with concern, but with more pressure. And then Finally, there's grandiosity and agenda-driven planning. I think Megan saying this notion of take advantage of this situation, especially during a solemn public service, implies strategic thinking at an inappropriate time. Narcissists often view public events as stages for manipulation or reputation maneuvering. So, what could all of this mean? What was happening? What do I think Harry and Meghan were talking about during this conversation? So I think there are 3 things that this could have been alluding to, and the more I think about it, the more I feel that each of these 3 are, I don't know, almost equally plausible. The first one is this push for a split from the royal household. We saw articles coming out a couple of weeks right after November 11 that there was the move to Frogmore Cottage, that they were pushing to create their own court separate from William and Catherine, and their request was denied by the Queen and Prince Charles in early 2019, and instead they were placed under Buckingham Palace and not allowed full independence. Meghan may have seen the media attacks and internal tension as the moment to demand a firm split or get Harry to confront palace leadership. The phrase "do it tonight" could have referred to Harry confronting his father or brother immediately while emotions were high or optics were favorable. Harry's memoir Spare includes multiple mentions of exploded confrontations with William and Charles, and it's possible that this was one of them. The next option is that there was ultimatum over treatment. It's possible that Meghan was making Harry issue a threat or draw a line with his family, something like, tell them we won't do this anymore, or say we'll step back if they keep smearing me. Harry's reaction, you do realize that this is the end, suggests he understood that this move would burn bridges. And finally, this could have been the push for a PR play or leak. Meghan may have wanted Harry to leak something or make a behind the scenes media move. The couple had already started forging connections with the press on their own by this point. Finding Freedom author Omid Scobie's early involvement began in this era. Meghan may have wanted to counteract negative press or take control of their image, using a leak or statement to force the palace's hand. If this was a power move, it aligns with coercive emotional strategies, timing a confrontation to a high stress moment like Remembrance Day when everyone is visible and emotions are high. That can be used to apply pressure and shift outcomes. Based on what came immediately afterward, including the implied staff and office separation in 2018, November 2018, and the move to Frogmore Cottage, it feels like Meghan was telling Harry to act on their separation from William and Catherine and the palace machine, in my opinion. And this could be done either by confronting family or pushing for a move that couldn't be walked back. Harry's reaction makes it clear he saw it as a line crossing moment, possibly the one that began the path toward Megxit. The more I reflect on it, though, it could also be related to Omid Scobie and Finding Freedom. Though I battle that back and forth because I don't think Harry and Meghan thought that they would be caught and connected to Finding Freedom. I remember Jason Knopf was alleged to have said in an email, I believe, to Harry, we need to be able to say hand on heart that we had nothing to do with it. And Harry agreed with that. So I oscillate on that one a little bit. I am curious to know what you think. Which of these options do you think is the possible topic of conversation between Harry and Meghan on that date? Or is there an alternative? Please drop that in the comments. I'm so excited to hear what you have to say about it. If this was interesting to you, please like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you'll know every time I drop a new video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and you're looking for a meaningful way to support something beyond the screen, I'd love for you to consider making a donation to the National Domestic Violence Hotline in lieu of super chats and super stickers. They provide 24/7 support and resources for people in unsafe or overwhelming situations, whether that's emotional, physical, or just hard to name. Their information is on the screen should you need to contact them, and you'll find the link to donate in the description of this video. Every little bit helps, and it means a lot. Thank you again for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.